Today, I thought I would outline for you guys exactly how I built a $4 million real estate portfolio for passive income.
Now don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything I've done that anyone watching this couldn't do.
But let me just say, I get it. Some of you already have lots of real estate and others of you are just getting started. But this isn't about competition. I'm a firm believer that we all have intrinsic value.
Anyone who wanted to do this and is willing to persevere and put in the time,
And with the right knowledge, determination, and a little luck,
they could absolutely make this happen.
and that brings me to the reason why I want to talk about this. You see, I've always been someone who learns by example, and I get inspired when I can connect the dots and understand exactly how someone was able to do something. What I mean is, I don't want to just hear what somebody has accomplished. I want to know how they did it. And I'm going to be sharing all of that with you. But before we get started into how I built a $4 million real estate portfolio, a little poetry, shall we? Roses are red, like buttons are blue, unless you haven't clicked it, and then shame on you. Please click the like button. You can do it now. Let's get into it.
Subscribe.
The year was 2011. I was freshly graduated from UC Davis with a degree in managerial economics. I was living in Sacramento, California, and had just been hired for a job in the Bay Area, Pleasanton to be specific. Now the commute from Sacramento to Pleasanton is about 100 miles, and it could take 3 hours one direction with commuter traffic. That's a pretty long drive, so I knew I needed to relocate. But at the time, I was getting a really good deal in the place that I was at. Sacramento was much cheaper than anything in the Bay Area. I knew for a fact that I didn't want to move to the Bay Area and rent.
I knew that what I wanted to do was house hack and start building wealth.
If you don't know what that is, more on that in just a moment. I wanted to own my own home.
From the second I got my first job, that's all I could think about. So I commuted all the way from Sacramento to Pleasanton.
It was a long commute and very painful, but I had goals and I was saving my money as aggressively as I could. I was reluctant to spend a penny on anything. And after 1 year, I had about $15,000 saved up, and I was ready to buy my first home. This was actually a huge moment, because I'd wanted to put these wheels into motion for as long as I could remember. And here I was, ready to do it. It was really happening. House hacking in this case is to live in the house while renting out the other bedrooms.
Since I knew I wanted to house hack,
I was looking for a house that had as many bedrooms as I could find. I knew this would help me to live as close to free as possible, because the other people in the house renting bedrooms would help me to pay the mortgage. So after looking around in the Bay Area for a while and having multiple offers rejected, I finally bought a house. Not only was it good that it had 5 bedrooms, but it was also in a great location. It was near a college, which is perfect for renting to students. And the college was gorgeous, complete with a pond and walking area. It's really something to behold. So I purchased this house in May of 2012.
it was an FHA loan, but it allowed me to get into the property with only a minimal amount of down payment.
And the purchase price was $203,400. And it's now worth about $526,000. Yeah, I know. Believe me, I totally get it. I was really lucky to be able to purchase a home during a time when the housing market was near its lowest point.
This house did have an HOA, which I really didn't like.
But nonetheless, this property continues to be one of my favorite properties in my entire portfolio, even to this day.
I moved into the master bedroom and I rented out the other 4 bedrooms.
And then you know what I did? I immediately started saving up for my next home purchase. People make real estate so complicated, but I like to keep it simple. I use something I call the GOLD method. Get ownership, lease, duplicate. I had only been involved with my corporate career job for just over a year at this point, and I already knew it wasn't something that I wanted to do forever. I wanted to build financial freedom through real estate. Well, it wasn't long until I had saved up a good amount, and I decided it was time to go home shopping once again.
I found one that had a pretty good deal.
It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom that had a great long-term tenant in place. So I made an offer. I offered them $155,000 and they accepted my offer.
Unfortunately, when it came time to close on the deal, I was short about $4,000.
I was determined not to allow this deal to slip through my hands.
So what I ended up doing is selling my car to get enough funds to close on the deal. In my area, we have some local transportation called BART. It's essentially a railway system that folks in the Bay Area use to get around. And I had a pretty good bicycle at the time, so I just figured I'll ride my bicycle to BART and I'll take BART to work.
I was willing to hustle hard to get this next deal. So in September of 2013, I bought the house for $155,000 and it's now worth $356,000. Wow, so now I had 2 homes. But at this point, I knew I was already hooked. Buying real estate was kind of like a chess game where I needed to figure out how to make my next move. And I've always loved a good challenge. So right about at this point, Goal number one for me was that I needed more cash. I was of course saving up, but the cash was building up very slowly. However, by this time, the first house I had bought had already built up a good amount of equity. Partly because I had been paying the principal down for a couple of years, but mostly because the housing market was starting to recover.
And I always knew I wanted to refinance out of that FHA loan, so now was the time to do it.
So I did a cash out refinance. This allowed me to get some extra money, but the key here is I didn't run out and go blow the cash on a bunch of junk. Nope. I held onto the cash and I started looking for my third real estate property. And in 2014, I ended up finding another great deal. This was another 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. I made an offer and it was accepted. I bought this one in April of 2014 for $219,000, and it's now worth $437,000. And this property was great because it already came with a Section 8 tenant. I liked Section 8 because it was guaranteed income from the housing authority. This is also when I first realized that leveraging Section 8 could have a lot of potential benefits. More on that in a future video.
But by the time I purchased that third property, coming up with more funds for additional properties was starting to become a bigger and bigger challenge.
At this point, I was low on cash again, and I began the process of saving up and wondering how I would come up with the funds needed to make my next purchase. And then an idea hit me that I wished I had realized sooner. If I would have been moving into these new houses instead of buying them as investments, I could have been getting owner-occupied interest rates on my loans, which are typically much less expensive than loans for investment properties. Anyway, by this time it was the summer of 2016, and I was getting a bit uncomfortable in my existing home.
I really wanted to upgrade and move to a better home.
So I started to go home shopping for a home that I could move into. The plan was that I would move into the new home and I could rent out the old home. So in August of 2016, I bought the house that I live in right now. I paid $525,000 for it at the time, and it's now worth about $725,000.
The nice thing about this is because it's owner occupied, I was able to get into a new home with a very low interest rate and also a very low percentage down. I only put about 10% down payment.
And just in case you've lost count, this brings us to a total of 4 single-family homes so far. And buying this home was a pivotal moment for me because up until this point, I had a goal of owning 4 real estate properties. And I did it. But then I guess I figured, well, why stop here? After all, I was still working that corporate job. However, there's one problem at this point where I ran into something I call a real estate investing nader. Basically what that is it's a low point in your investing career. This happens to almost all individual folks who are trying to invest in real estate and build their own portfolio. Essentially what happens is, well, you run out of money. It almost feels like a checkmate situation in the chess game of real estate, where you can't imagine how you're going to get enough money to buy the next property, or at least buy the next property anytime soon. Don't get me wrong, I was getting cash flow from the existing properties, but even with that, it was looking like many years until I had enough cash saved up to purchase another property. But I didn't want to get discouraged, so I continued to save as aggressively as I could. I was still house hacking, I was self-managing the existing properties, and I continued to learn as much as I could about real estate. Well, about 3 years had gone by since I had purchased the second and third property that we talked about earlier.
But because home values kept going up so quickly, the 2 homes that I had just purchased in 2014 had already gone up in value enough that I was able to refinance them and cash out.
So in the summer of 2017, I took out a cash refinance on those 2 properties. I was careful to leave at least 20% equity in each property, but this allowed me to get my hands on a significant chunk of change. And what do you think I did with all that money? Go on a vacation to Hawaii? No, I went home shopping, of course. And actually, I ended up finding 2 deals that I really liked. And I kept trying to decide which one I wanted. Well, I ended up going with both.
And I was able to close on both of them at the same time.
2 different loans, processed at the same time. I signed a big stack of papers, let me tell you. Anyway, in October of 2017, I bought a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house for $385,000, and it's now worth $478,000. I also bought at the same time a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for $355,000, and it's now worth $457,000. The 3-bedroom, 2-bath house was somebody else's flip.
So that one was very turnkey, but the other one I needed to fix up and remodel myself.
And I actually liked that it was turnkey because then I didn't have to worry about doing 2 renovation projects at the same time. So I ended up getting a tenant in the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house as quickly as possible, and then I got to work on the remodel with the 4-bedroom, 2-bath house.
So it took me about a month and I made some pretty good improvements, and then I was able to get it rented out.
For those who are counting, this makes 6 homes in my portfolio. And with all homes rented out, I was saving up as quickly as I could to buy the next home. And by May of 2018, I was already looking for another deal. And I actually ended up finding a rather unusual deal.
The thing I really love about it is that it's actually 2 individual houses.
2 houses, totally separate, on the same lot. What was really unique about this deal is that the city had these on record as being a duplex. But it wasn't really a duplex, it's 2 totally separate houses. What's cool about that is I could buy it as one property, meaning I only needed one loan to buy both houses. Like a 2-for-1 special. Yes, please.
I just knew that eventually that would pan out to be a good idea.
So I bought these 2 houses in May of 2018 for a price of $405,000. The pair of houses are now worth a combined total of $525,000. And by the way, each house was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. They were pretty small, but just to keep our count alive, this now brings us to a total of 8 houses in the portfolio. So let's talk about the 9th house that I purchased.
And this property I got for a steal. It needed a lot of work, but I really got it for a great price.
And that was in August of 2019. It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home, and I paid $290,000 for it. It's now worth $450,000. Now I know that sounds like a big jump in value in such a short amount of time, but when I bought this one it was a major fixer. It needed a lot of repair. It's really a great story and I told the whole story in another video. I'll post a link to it here or somewhere. It's a really great story and the before and after photos are mind-blowing. So as far as 2020 goes, I've made a couple offers, they got rejected, but I've just been playing it very cautious. I want any deal that I make at this point to have a lot of equity built into it. This is due to the uncertainty that we're facing in the world. If you can take anything away from this video, I hope it's the idea that building a real estate portfolio is not some outlandish idea. It's actually something that you could do, or that anybody could do. You just need the right strategy, dedication, and patience. Wherever you're at in your real estate journey, you could absolutely make your goals happen. If you got any value out of this video at all, please hit that like button. And also consider subscribing so that you can get more videos just like this one. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, you guys are awesome.